There's so much to talk about today, so let's bring in Stephen Marche. He's the author of The Next Civil War, Dispatches from the American Future, and he joins us from Toronto. Stephen, thank you for making the time to talk to us. Good to see you again. So let's start with that call between Justin Trudeau and Donald Trump. Trump put out quite the description of the call and said Trudeau is using the trade issue to stay in power, which is obviously false. What do you make of what we heard from Trump today?
Well, I mean, I just wouldn't listen too closely to anything that Donald Trump says. I mean, I think there's a tendency to try to analyze this like you're dealing with a rational person and like that this is involved in some kind of systematic, strategic plan that you can then sort of work towards. There's none of that. It's all very random and just sort of what occurred to him. It's all on a whim. So, I would say that letter is absolutely meaningless and should occupy not one iota of your brain.
Okay. The issue is, though, that it is, 25% tariffs on all Canadian goods, 10% on energy. But then we learned about an auto sector exemption for 30 days. And we just heard from David Cochrane, that there could be other sectors of the Canadian economy that will get exemptions. So what do you make of this moment that we're in?
Well, the lesson that we learned today is that if economic pain reaches Fox News, Trump will have to respond. And that's actually a very key piece of information for all leaders and all negotiators going forward. Trump is a creation of the entertainment industry. He is primarily concerned with the effects of his spectacles rather than with the results of any kind of policy, and certainly anything to do with the well-being of the American people. So what we have to do consciously is work towards making sure that when we react to his insanities, that we hit him where he actually feels it, which is the economic news that reaches Fox News.
So it's really as simple as that, making sure that, this all ends up on Fox News.
2 days of stock market crashes, he backs down, right? This is the lesson for us.
Let's go back to Justin Trudeau's reaction to these tariffs yesterday. He said he believes that Trump's goal is to totally damage our economy to the point where it would be easier for the U.S. to annex us. What is your reaction to Trudeau's talk there?
Well, I think he is accurate. I mean, I don't know quite. Nobody knows what any of this means, right? Like nobody knows what Trump means when he's talking about annexing Canada. I mean, there's all this sort of talk about we would be a colony or a state. I mean, it's very, very unclear, and it all seems very performative to me. I mean, it's what you're dealing with here is a carnival barker. Is someone who is trying to gather your attention, and it very successfully does that. The sort of almost totally unanimous response of the Canadian people is very heartening. And I think, we all know that we're going to suffer here. But the truth is, like, tariffs are expensive, trade wars are expensive, but not being American, that's priceless. And we all know that.
I want to play a clip from Trudeau's speech yesterday when he spoke directly to the American public about the booing that we've seen of the U.S. national anthem at sporting events. Let's listen.
And yeah, we're probably going to keep booing the American anthem. But let me tell Americans, we're not booing you. We're not booing your teams. We're not booing your players. We're booing a policy that is designed to hurt us.
What do you make of that explanation to Americans and your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's his very politic way of putting it. I think there is overall a general sense in the Canadian people that we have to reject America very, very forcefully, and that this has to be done not just with the tariff war and not just with the immediate crisis that we're facing, but just generally. I mean, what I predicted in this book is starting to really take on a momentum of its own. America really is a dying star. And dying stars either blow up or they cave in. And either way, you want to be very, very far from that when it happens. And I think Canada is starting to realize that what we consider the free world and our place in the free world is shifting very drastically. And we are going to have to make very drastic movements of all kinds. And starting with the economic ones, which are the most essential. and which I am heartened to see our political classes actually undertake with some vigor.
And so by that, I think you mean internal trade barriers, you mean diversifying markets?
Yes.
Is that kind of what you're alluding to?
Yeah, diversifying markets, building an east-west pipeline, getting our oil to other markets, opening up to China, opening up to Europe, not just economically, but eventually diplomatically and politically as well. I think it's inevitable. We just have a lot more in common with those countries than we do with the United States right now.
Stephen, thank you. Stephen Marche joining us from Toronto.